You know, it's no secret that CCP, under authoritarian regime of President Xi Jinping, is working to displace the United States as the top economy in the world, encountered the American dream with the CCP's version of the China dream at the global stage. The CCP is strategically undermining U.S. interests at every turn, as proven by their theft of valuable intellectual property and agreements with Russia to circumvent economic sanctions triggered by the invasion of Ukraine. As you know, I'm going to ask the question to Dr. McDowell. The Russia invasion of Ukraine, it's already been over 15 months. So what lessons should the United States government take from how we utilize sanctions when assessing the possibility of a similar impending attack by the Chinese towards Taiwan?
Yes, thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So I think the lessons we can take from the sanctions against Russia, I would say before the war and after, again, are that they provoke, right, our adversaries to move into alternative currencies. In fact, they sort of require it, right, because targets cannot use the dollar system, and so they're forced to move into other currencies. We've seen, again, leading up to the war, Russia settling more trade with China in euros, settling more trade with China in the yuan. We've seen that increase with the focus on the yuan and then rubles after the invasion and the new rounds of sanctions. And so in one sense, that's a sign that sanctions are working, because if sanctions are working, countries will have to move their activities away from the dollar. But it's also a sign that sanctions do not stop countries like Russia or China from participating in the world economy. There are limitations to how effective they can be. And so again, I think the bigger lesson here is about thinking about how to use sanctions in a way that doesn't provoke additional sort of infrastructure building that will weaken the effectiveness of those in the future.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, may I offer 3 or 4 specific things I think we need to learn from what did and didn't work? First is, you can't make vague, unspecified threats in the run-up to hostilities. You have to begin imposing consequences before the assault begins. Lesson number 2, you cannot piecemeal sanctions on banks when it comes to state-controlled autocratic systems, because they simply use the non-sanctioned banks to get around it. Lesson number 3, you have to go after the thing that they export, which is giving them the hard currency reserves to keep the war effort going, and we have not done that with regard to Russian oil. So those, I think, are 3 major deficiencies that we need to fix. To the chairman's point earlier, I've served as an acting Assistant Secretary of Defense and Deputy Undersecretary of the Navy, as well as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, and I can tell you the Treasury does not sufficiently plan in advance for these kinds of consequences. We need to urge Treasury to come up with a serious game plan to go after the Chinese if we believe invasion of Taiwan is imminent.
Thank you. Thank you so much for both of your perspectives on that and the lessons that we can take from it.